Hello, good evening. Welcome to Camnet Television Main News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo to present. And our top stories in the news this evening. SACCORD calls for peace in Thursday by-election as PF cries foul. Government issues over 10,000 land titles. The media fraternity in Zambia launches a self-regulation mechanism. In international news, Zimbabwe president promises free and fair election. And in sports news, Manchester City keen to beat BAYERN Munich at home ground.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
Hello once again, another news in detail. Residents of Lusaka's Chainda compound have urged the government to ensure that economic gains made in the country trickle down to ordinary citizens, noting that they have not felt the impact of various announced economic achievements by the current administration at personal level. Speaking to Camnet News, one of the residents, Margaret Banda, observes that many families are still facing challenges to access basic needs such as affording 3 meals a day, hence the need for economic reforms that will benefit citizens at individual level. Meanwhile, a development activist, Charity Musamba, says there is need for the current administration to re-strategize and ensure that economic growth is pursued alongside human development if to break social inequalities. More in this report.
The change of political parties in Zambia's administration has mainly been blamed on the alleged failure by those that have been voted out to improve the lives of Zambians at personal level, as citizens have been reporting struggles in affording basic needs such as food and shelter. Key economic pronouncements have been made by the United Party for National Development UPND since coming into office in August 2021, with the current administration boasting of making the country investor-friendly, among other economic achievements. While these developments have been acknowledged, some residents of Lusaka's Chainda compound have called on the current administration to ensure that their lives are improved at personal level.
Babwezeko vintu vadurisa abantu sivachitamane chikula vintu. So pari mayouth futi ngakambeko nchito pari nchito vachiteko employ mayouth Mzambia apezeko vochita aswali na majanki apaka Mzambia kai kuti bevochita vambiri
neno na wana 5 panganda asi wanyinawo yemwalira mbano atwale nikaviri ngava kuti niri apa nivone kuli vavota vintu.
So says what the government ngatanga ne bwanji as a marketeers. Ndama za CDF zinachoka bati kuti tizisebenzese. Tibevo zisebenzesa kayitika ikamu business sizienda. Kuti tikati tidiepo ndrama futi tipeze kati tizankala tilipe. Kusungirira futi tizafana njala. So paliyo government tipempa kwa tiyanganepo kuti batitandizire kunkani ya nchito ma business azienda kwa at least kuma market wakeko malamulo yokwanira mushemushe so that izikwanisa odyesa abana.
Meanwhile, in a phone interview, a development analyst, Dr. Charity Musamba, observes that Zambia is at high risk of failing to attain the status of a prosperous middle-income country by 2030 if human development is not prioritized.
The first and most important issue that I think most people are calling for is for this government to revisit the development approach. Number one, if you want to improve human development conditions for your own people, it comes from the way you look at and understand the concept of development, especially development for the people. What you see is that what we're pursuing is economic productivity and profit making and investment. But for who? That's the key question. So if they can come back and re-strategize on ensuring that all these policies, investment strategies, and all the hula baloo we are hearing about trying to stabilize our economy and grow it, the key question is, who are you doing it for and how?
She has observed that narrowing economic inequalities is imperative in any country that aspires to gain development in the long run. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Merchandisers Union of Zambia, MEUZ, has urged beneficiaries under the National Pension Scheme Authority, NAPSA, who may not find any contributions in their accounts when seeking a 20% withdrawal under the new law, to engage their respective unions so that action can be taken on abrogating companies. Speaking to Camnet News, MEUZ spokesperson Albertine Fichani observes that workers in many companies have been raising the said complaints despite named companies claiming to be submitting workers' dues to NAPSA. He has also urged government through the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to act on companies that will be found wanting. Meanwhile, the MEUZ spokesperson notes that passing of a law to allow for a 20% withdrawal will help many merchandisers who have been at the bottom of the economy to start meaningful ventures for themselves. On Monday, 17th April 2023, Republican President Hakainde Hichilema assented to the said law, which will see those who have worked for a minimum number of 5 years and those aged 45 or above making the said once-off withdrawals from their retirement benefits.
So, on the employees that have found out that, their employers have not been submitting NAPSA, what you need to do is, firstly, if you are unionized, you need to take it up to your union. Then the union is going to follow it up by making sure that we visit the NAPSA, we check together about the records on your NAPSA records, we check on your NAPSA records. Then there are some charges that are going to be put on the employers who are not doing exactly what they are supposed to do, because it's law. So in case we have those who are not unionized, just other employees, the best you need to do is visit NAPSA headquarters. When you visit NAPSA headquarters, you're going to be advised on how to go about it. You can also visit the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, because the Ministry of Labour and Social Security also works together with NAPSA. They work together with the pensions and those other institutions that are taking care of the employees in Zambia.
The National Action for Quality Education in Zambia, CRIES, has expressed delight that President Hakainde Hichilema has finally enacted the National Pension Scheme Amendment Bill of 2023. CRIES Executive Director Aaron Chansa says the new law will enable educators to venture into investments of their choice and distance themselves from expensive and slavery debts in loans. Mr. Chansa indicated that the reformation of the National Pension Scheme will further help reduce poverty among teachers, adding that in its former state, teachers from private and government schools were bitterly against the way their national authority was operating. Mr. Chansa, however, noted that the National Pension Scheme Authority, NAPSA, should consider reforming the Act to allow 50% partial withdrawal for its members.
As it should be, it will enable our teachers to actually get this money and invest in areas of choice. Our position is that Parliament and the President must be commended. This is something that teachers have been wanting to see. The previous NAPSA was enacted to increase poverty amongst our teachers. It was crafted against its own members. We are happy that finally our teachers are going to have access to their funds. Our plea and advice to our members, to our teachers, is that they must go out there, make these withdrawals, but invest in viable businesses, because we know that once this is done, the teaching profession is going to be much more liquid. We are going to see a profession that is economically viable, without much stress, and well motivated to go out there to go and do their national duty. So we are very happy and we want to commend the President and Parliament for this.
Zambia's Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Elijah Muchima, has revealed that a total of 10,479 land title certificates were issued out in the first quarter of 2023 under the National Land Titling Program, which is targeted at issuing a total of 4 million land title certificates by the end of the project. Addressing members of the media at the Ministry of Information and Media Wednesday, Mr. Muchima also says the ministry is targeting to open up kiosks in all provinces of the country, which will allow citizens to easily access services of the ministry within their localities using the digital space without traveling to the capital city, Lusaka. The minister adds that the move is also being done to curb corruption at the ministry, which he says has become a cancer, as some workers are reported to be in the habit of soliciting funds to push for the quick issuance of title deeds, matters which he says have officially been reported to the Zambia police for investigation. More in this report.
The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources says it is actively working to clear its name and regain public confidence after it was placed second following the Zambia police in the 2022 Zambia Bribe Payers Index among 11 public institutions that received or were more likely to receive a bribe due to their nature of work. Being one of the most crucial ministries as it handles matters of land security and issues of title deeds, the news did not come as a shock to Minister of Lands and Natural Resources Elijah Muchima, who says the United Party for National Development UPND administration is now determined to change the narrative. Mr. Muchima, who was addressing the media Wednesday morning at the Ministry of Information and Media, has been receiving reports of rooms containing vital documents being broken into, with the said documents missing, stating that these cases have been reported to the Zambia police. Mr. Muchima adds that the ministry is targeting to issue 60,000 title deeds in 2023 and has so far issued 10,479 in the first quarter of the year under the National Land Titling Program, which has a target of issuing out a total of 4 million title deeds, adding that the ministry is also going digital to ensure that these services can be accessed in all parts of the country.
Come to my office. Because when I ask for a file, it comes. Because I'm against what is happening. When you go there yourself directly, they were told, no, do you come after 3 months? They want to induce you to pay so that your file is found. In no instance, title is supposed to come out in a day, but because of volumes, it should not take more than a month. Should not take more than a month. I've proved it. They hate me talking about corruption.
The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources further says the ministry is on the path of undertaking a land audit, which will see all land being audited to avoid double allocation of title deeds. He has also warned Zambians who are in the habit of acquiring land for foreigners.
The councils are numbering, the Minister of Lands is numbering. We want to come together and interface so that numbering is only done by one center, maybe there. That way we shall cover this. Because this coordinate, why should it overlap there? There is somebody already. They are clever. They are also renumbering. That system of numbering should be done away with. We have to find a better way, intending to have a meeting with my colleague in the Ministry of Local Government so that we remove these grey areas. They are causing problems.
The said interventions are aimed at bringing sanity to Zambia's land sector, which is highly controversial. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Southern African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, SACCORD, Executive Director Boniface Chembe, has called for violence-free polls in the forthcoming by-elections. Thursday, 19th April 2023, the country will be holding ward elections in Serenje, Chililabombwe and Lupososhi district. And Mr. Chembe has called on the Electoral Commission of Zambia and the police to ensure that people freely exercise their right to vote.
We want to appeal for calm and restraint as the people go to vote in the pending ward by-elections in the different localities of the country. The violence that has been recorded so far is extremely unfortunate. It is a disservice to our country, but also a strong reminder of just how deep-rooted this rise is of political violence and how we need to continue working at uprooting it by ensuring that different mechanisms, including those that target trauma, are put in place. So our appeal to all the people who will be voting in these different ward by-elections, that please do come out en masse and exercise your right to vote. And for any would-be individual who may have some kind of fancy to engage in acts of political violence, we appeal to you to desist and allow democracy to thrive, allow the people to choose and elect the leadership of their choice, and allow democracy in the republic to prevail. This is our humble appeal to the Zambia Police Service. Please be on the lookout and provide security to all and ensure that peace and security prevails, and ultimately that the wishes of the people prevail.
Meanwhile, leader of the opposition in Parliament, Brian Mundubile, says the April 2023 ward by-elections in Serenje, Chililawombwe and Lupososhi will not be free and fair because UPND cadres are allegedly perpetuating violence. Mr. Mundubile, a PF presidential candidate, said the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, failed to control electoral violence and fair treatment of candidates and voters in the three areas because cadres were appointed to serve UPND interess at ECZ. He says Socialist Party President Fred Membe fell victim at the hands of the violent UPND cadres, but there has been no UPND cadre arrested in the said incident. Meanwhile, Mr. Mundubile said reports from Lupososhi indicated that Minister of Youth, Sports and Arts Elvis Nkandu was publicly distributing money in the area with impunity. He said PF members that went to campaign following the Electoral Commission of Zambia ECZ calendar were stopped from campaigning in Chililawombwe.
We also saw what happened to the president of the Socialist Party, Comrade Fred Membe, who fell victim at the hands of the violent EPND cadres. And to our surprise, President Membe was arrested. There's been no report whatsoever of any UPND cadre being arrested in that particular incident. You go down to Lupososhi, the reports that are coming through that the Minister of Youth and Sports is distributing money to voters in Lupososhi with impunity. He's just giving out money at public meetings during that election, the campaign. When you go to Chililawombwe, members of our party went to campaign following the ECZ calendar, and they've been stopped from campaigning.
The media fraternity in Zambia has launched a media self-regulation mechanism aimed at ensuring ethical and professional conduct in the media industry. Media Association for Self-Regulation chairperson, Pastor Kennedy Mambwe, has hailed the government for creating an enabling environment that permits the media to self-regulate for the first time in history. Pastor Mambwe recalls that President Hakainde Hichilema has on several occasions insisted that the New Dawn administration does not intend to regulate the media. The media endeavor has attracted participation from over 50 media institutions and stakeholders from across the country. Here's a report.
Republican President Hakainde Hichilema has been a proponent of media self-regulation, and Wednesday 19th April 2023, the media fraternity launched the self-regulation mechanism. The Association for Self-Regulation of the Media converged in Lusaka to adopt and launch a self-regulation mechanism for the media in Zambia and a code of ethics which all media practitioners will be expected to abide by. Media Association for Self-Regulation chairperson Pastor Kennedy Mambwe has hailed the government for creating an enabling environment that permits the media to self-regulate for the first time in the country's history.
The Media Associations for Self-Regulation contended then, as they do now, that statutory regulation would have been punitive but who would have not been the best option to cure unethical or unprofessional conduct in the media. We in the Associations of Media for Self-Regulation believe that there are enough laws currently regulating the media, including those laws to do with sedition, defamation, cyber security, and for those of us who are coming from the broadcast industry, we are well regulated by the Independent Broadcasting Act, among other pieces of legislation.
It says the self-regulation mechanism is a milestone in promoting ethical and professionalism in the media industry.
Commends publicizing the adopted self-regulatory mechanism, including the Code of Ethics, as early as next week, so that the public may be aware what we have signed up to, so that they can also know how they can hold us accountable. Our job is to the public, and the public must hold us accountable. So what we are launching here today will be made public through various platforms, on our platforms, in the newsrooms, and many others. As a matter of fact, from the broadcast sector, we would like all of our members to make sure they begin to run messages that says, we are proud members of the Media Ethics and Complaints Committee.
Media owners and media organizations championing press freedom, among them the Free Press Initiative, Media Institute for Southern Africa, Mr. Zambia, Panos Institute Southern Africa, were part of the team reaffirming the importance of self-regulation of the media. And Panos Institute Southern Africa Executive Director Vusomuzi Sifile has hailed the media fraternity for taking a step towards self-regulation.
So we join forces so that we can have this framework where, as the media actors, we can regulate ourselves. We can set the rules and commit to abide by them. So this is not just about the few organizations that are sitting in front, but it is about every one of us.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
President Hakainde Hichilema has told players in the grain producers and traders to stop using the Food Reserve Agency as their warehouse for storing of grain and for their businesses. Speaking when he met the Zambia National Farmers Union, ZNFU, Grain Traders Association of Zambia and Water Harvest Delegation at State House, President Hichilema says traders are businesses that need to procure their own grain and not rely on the agency. President Hichilema says Zambia is among the 4 best placed countries in the world, but that the country is failing to utilize the opportunity. He says Zambia should not be experiencing a meal shortage when it is endowed with fertile land to produce crops in large quantities. And ZNFU President Jervis Zimba wants the agriculture sector to be depoliticized so that farmers do not lose direction in their day-to-day work, and further calling for policy direction.
Food availability, affordability is a security issue. That's why we designed to have a Food Reserve Agency that will kick in when there's a problem. But we'll discuss that, because now we're making Food Reserve Agency as our warehouse. Businesses are making Food Reserve Agency as their warehouse at no fee. No. We had dealers last week. Grain traders are business houses. Milling companies are business houses. Farmers are businesses. So I think these are the challenges that we've been facing for years, for many reasons. And we're not here to blame each other. We're here to operate as one community. So we have to invest in the water harvest, we have to invest in the irrigation, most efficient irrigation systems, we have to invest in the genetics to support productivity.
Mr. President, that you can also help us to depoliticize the agriculture sector, because it's really affecting the farmers as they lose direction in their day-to-day work, and we need a policy direction that I would appreciate if depoliticizing the culture should go to the second stage.
Patriotic Front PF chairperson for Information and Publicity, Rafał Nakachinda, has been found with a case to answer in a matter where he is charged with defamation of President Hakainde Hichilema. And Mr. Nakachinda has been put on defense by Lusaka resident magistrate Irene Washimanga. In this matter, it is alleged that Mr. Nakachinda on December 13, 2021 in Lusaka, with intent to bring the name of Mr. Hichilema into hatred, ridicule and contempt, caused to be published defamatory matter by word of mouth where he addressed people at the Lusaka High Court that the president had summoned judges at his private residence, intimidating and coercing them to frustrate Patriotic Front's PF legal battles. Magistrate Wishimanga has since set 10th May 2023 for the commencement of defense in the matter. The offense was contrary to the repealed Section 69 of the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia. Pension and Insurance Authority Acting Registrar Namakau Ntini says the gross written premium for the insurance sector as of 31st December 2022 was estimated at 6 billion kwacha. Ms. Ntini says the long-term insurance sector accounted for 2.1 billion kwacha, while general insurance accounted for 3.8 billion kwacha. She also says the net claims settled in the year under review was 2.38 billion kwacha compared to 1.7 billion paid in 2021. And Ms. Ntini has called on the media to provide correct information to the public on the 2023 National Pensions Amendment Bill that has been signed into law. She said this when she addressed journalists at a media workshop in Lusaka Wednesday. More in this report.
Despite the uptake of insurance services being low in Zambia at 6%, the insurance sector has boasted of a gross written premium of 6 billion kwacha in 2022 compared to 5.3 billion kwacha recorded in 2021. Speaking at a media workshop in Lusaka, Pension and Insurance Authority Acting Registrar Namakau Ntini says the written premium is representing a year-on-year growth of 13%, in which the long-term insurance sector accounted for 2.1 billion kwacha, while general insurance accounted for 3.8 billion kwacha.
Written premium for the insurance sector for 2022 was estimated at about 6 billion. I think we saw how the movement had been. And this is compared to about 5.3 billion recorded in 2021, which is really representing a year-on-year growth of about 13%. The long-term insurance sector accounted for 2.1 billion, while the general insurance sector accounted for 3.8 billion. So net claims settled increased to about 2.3 billion as at 31st December 2022, compared to about 1.7 billion during the same period in 2021.
And Mrs. Ntini has tasked the media to provide correct information to the public on the 2023 National Pension and Amendment Bill that has been signed into law by the President.
Law that is able to allow persons to have access to their pension savings. Now, I'm sure you've seen what has been going around in the social media where people are literally saying, can I buy a jet? Is it time for me to upgrade my phone into the latest phone? But if you really listened carefully to what the President said, he says these funds are supposed to be reinvested. So basically they are coming into the hands of individuals so that they can be reinvested, and it is expected that through these reinvestment by persons, they can still adequately prepare for their retirement.
And the authority says entities regulated by them have a responsibility to be accountable to pension scheme members and insurance policy holders in the provision of quality products and services, as this has the power to increase the uptake of insurance services by the Zambian people. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
This is Camnet Television, the main news. We'll take our first break. Join us for more news after the break.
From time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our ZESCO units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962-642-490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes, and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Hello and welcome. Department of National Parks and Wildlife Acting Director Andrew Chomba has appreciated the long-standing support to conservation by various partners. Speaking when he graced the African Parks Donor Roundtable Engagement Meeting at Lusaka's Taj Pamozi Hotel today, Mr. Chomba says the partners have not only as entities supported government directly, but also through organizations such as African Parks, the Nature Conservancy, and others. He said various partners have shown commitment to delivering conservation outcomes, but also being accountable to government and those that provide the funding. And African Parks Global Funding Director Helg Mann said the organization intends to increase funding to national parks under its portfolio in Africa from $120 million to between $180 to $200 million per year. He said African Parks is working at increasing the number of parks under its management from 22 to 30 by the year 2030. Mr. Mann said African Parks has set the pace for collaborative management partnerships and that today there are more than 40 such initiatives across Africa.
The Department of National Parks and Wildlife under the Ministry of Tourism remains committed to conservation of wildlife and habitats they live in. This commitment has been demonstrated before the call by the United Nations, IUCN, to reserve a proportion of landscape and seascape for conservation. To this effect, Zambia has reserved, as you're aware of, 31% for wildlife management, made up of 20 national parks, 36 game management areas, 2 wildlife sanctuaries, and 1 bird sanctuary. These areas, ladies and gentlemen, were carefully chosen as national parks, GMAs, and forests because of the rich biodiversity and watersheds for many of our important rivers. They harbor pristine and sensitive ecosystems that provide critical ecosystem services to the country.
Today, African Parks has an annual budget of $120 million for all these 22 parks. In order to meet our objectives to reach 30 parks, we estimate that we need to increase our annual budget to a number between 180 million and 200 million per year.
Over the last 5 years, across the portfolio, we've seen 450,000 rounds of ammunition confiscated, and our impact has been measured and tracked across 3 distinct areas. We look at the ecological, economic and financial, and the governance areas.
Zambians for Unity and Peace ZUPED President Ronnie Jere says resolving issues around the management of Konkola copper mines with Vedanta Resources is key to ensuring sustained appreciation of the Zambian kwacha to the United States dollar, as it will see Zambia benefiting from its copper exports. Speaking to Camnet News, Mr. Jere says there is a need for government to find sustainable measures that will guarantee the kwacha stability. He observes that the strong appreciation of the kwacha is a positive move that needs to be supported by strong policies to make it sustainable.
He wants to see Zambia export up to at least 3 million tons of copper every year. And this can only happen if we quickly work around unlocking the mining sector and begin to do our work. 3 million tons is a very huge task, and the sooner we do that, the better. So we ask the head of state to quickly, work around finding a suitable investor for Mopani, but also quickly resolve issues with KCM, give KCM to Vedanta so that they begin to operate optimally. And we will see the kwacha continue to gain, and we will see Zambians benefit from the gains that will come as a result of, stabilizing of the kwacha.
The Zambia Army has continued the search for missing bodies that drowned in Lake Mweru in Inchalenge district of Luapula province on Tuesday, the 18th of April 2022. Zanis reports that 3 people on the boat were Zambian, while the 28 others are Congolese nationals. According to a survivor identified as Elizabeth Chaba, the accident occurred when the driver of the boat failed to navigate the heavy waves that forced the boat to capsize, killing 14 people. Meanwhile, police deputy spokesperson Danny Mwale says 6 bodies have been retrieved among the 12 that were missing. More in this report.
The search for the remaining 7 bodies by the Zambia Army 48 marine divers has continued. According to information obtained from the survivors, the 3 people were on board and 4 were Zambians, while the rest were Congolese. And so far, only 1 Zambian survived and 17 Congolese.
twafika mulu bali mutukutuku mutamuwa driver tukishe kwa muisamba pantu anyana kwati aliko pamulu tukishe kwa muisamba omwela wake la namba driver muri amukisa kuoneka twafika pepa lyo bali patukutuku kwisa kuoneka muri amabimbi yakila driver amana kila boti yambo kwingisha driver alegala na kuri machine wapo ina somba kama ina nafale kinani no fo bonse bali mu boti tatwaje na tufwa esho sheyambile kututola abantu turimo badaba nensiponse batakwita makaya kusamba esho bayibile.
The area councillor is saddened with the incident.
The boat was completely overloaded. As they proceeded from Chinsamba to Kabeke, then as they were approaching Chikuma, that's where the boat capsized because the wind was very aggressive. The wind aggravated from that point where they reached until finally the boat capsized.
In the early hours of yesterday, a boat carrying the 3 people who were coming from a field at Kiro Island in Zambia, heading to Kashowe in the Democratic Republic of Congo, capsized due to strong winds. 15 people are feared dead, while 18 survived. Zanis reports from Cherenge district.
We'll take a second and final break. Join us for more in international sports news after the break.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished.
Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RainGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
And now in international news, with less water falling as rain to fill them, none of Tunisia's 30 dams are even a third full, according to figures from the Ministry of Agriculture and Water Resources. Authorities have decided to cut water supply at night from March 31, 2023 until September 2023. Meanwhile, Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa vows that general elections expected later this year will be free and fair, but issued a warning to rogue civic society organizations during an Independence Day speech. For news beyond our borders, here's a roundup.
Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa vowed on Tuesday that general elections expected later this year will be free and fair, but issued a warning to rogue civil society organizations during an Independence Day speech. Zimbabwe is due to hold presidential and legislative votes expected to be in August, but no date has been announced yet.
When elections draw nearer, I call on the nation to remain vigilant and protect our hard-won independence. No voices, foreign or local, inclusive of rocky NGOs, should sow seeds of division and disharmony among us.
The 80-year-old leader, who is seeking re-election, promised a free and fair elections in the country. Poll results have been questionable.
My government has put measures in place to ensure free, fair, and credible elections.
Mnangagwa's ruling ZANU-PF party has been accused in the past of using violence and intimidation to instill fear in opponents during elections.
In many Tunisian houses, no water is coming out of the tap. Authorities have decided to cut water supply at night since March 31st. Sumaya Ben Abdullah, who lives in Ariana, an agglomeration part of the capital, feels that the situation is very difficult, especially during Ramadan. Water is essential for ablutions, cooking and housework. It's not reasonable to cut off water in the month of Ramadan and let us without water. Luckily, I have a tank to conserve water, and I had put water buckets in the bathroom in the kitchen. Look at what I do when I want to wash dishes. I fill bowls with water and I use it. But what does a person who does not own a tank do? The water distribution company announced, among other measures, a ban on using drinking water for irrigation outside Tunis and on watering green areas within the city. A civil society activist says the state should rather focus on the consumption of industrial companies. The Ministry of Agriculture is demanding a strategy for water consumption in agriculture and a high warning because the top priority for water use is human use, as well as a demand to warn the industrialists because they are depleting the underground water table. According to the Tunisian Water Observatory, the water levels in the country's dams have decreased by 60 to 80%. In the northern town of Menzel Tamim, a member of the Environmental Association is worried. Currently, we have reached the red line, or the danger line in terms of water scarcity. The dams are almost empty. The rationing system that is enforced is no surprise for this water expert. Instead, she believes the state's communication with the population have been poor. After these procedures of cutting off the water for 6 to 7 hours a day, a booklet should have been published explaining water consumption, storage, timing and the quantity allowed to be stored. This is why we consider these measures incomplete, because before taking any step, the citizen must be made aware of the importance of conserving water so that he accepts any measure and it does not cause an adverse effect. Tunisia, which is in its 5th consecutive year of drought, will experience water cuts until September 2023.
It's now time for sports news. Pep Guardiola says Manchester City will face 11 players. Note the history of Bayern Munich in Wednesday's Champions League quarterfinal second leg. The teams will meet at the Allianz Arena with City holding a 3-goal advantage from the first leg. But Guardiola says Bayern, who have won the trophy 6 times, will still be a threat on home soil. City have yet to win the Champions League, having lost the 2021 final to Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea, and were beaten in last season's semi-finals by an incredible Real Madrid comeback. The Spaniard, who managed Bayern for 3 years before taking charge of City in 2016 and leading them to 4 Premier League titles, wants his side to further punish Bayern after their outstanding first-leg performance in Manchester. To end our news, the top stories once again. SACCORD calls for peace in Thursday by-election as PF cries foul. Government issues over 10,000 land titles. The media fraternity in Zambia launches a self-regulation mechanism. In international news, Zimbabwe president promises free and fair election. And in sports news, Manchester City keen to beat Bayern Munich at home ground. Our current verse for the day is coming from James 5 verse 16. Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. Thank you again for watching Camnet Television News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Bye-bye.